Well, good afternoon. It's the middle of April, and the last video I made was everybody has a greenhouse, where I talked about using your home where the temperatures are warm, especially in the springtime when they need to be, and you have windows that face the sun and the sun is low on the horizon. It's a perfect time to start plants to propagate figs or any other fruit or plant that you may be interested in. And during that video, I planted several pots, 3 pots. I've now kept 2 for myself and given 1 away. And I just took some cuttings, Smith cuttings, that I had gathered in the fall, in the fall, and kept in the refrigerator, and I just made a demonstration of how I propagate figs. One of the ways, and I do it several ways, and there are several good ways to do it. So you may be interested in watching that video, but I wanted to show an update. I wanted to show the results of that planting, because I had some interesting contacts, and they were surprised that I didn't bother to scrape down into the cambium layer, and I didn't scuff the bark, and I didn't use root hormone. And I basically talked about just facilitating nature, that nature is really wiser in these matters, and that the best course to take is to get nature to be your buddy or your friend or your accomplice, however you may think of it, and just facilitate the conditions and make them conducive to success. Let nature do its part, and don't stand in the way like mankind very often does, stand in the way of nature. So I just simply took the cuttings, cut them into smaller pieces. Some of them were longer, you're seeing that video, and I just cut them in half or thirds, and I wrapped some cellophane around the top to keep them from drying out, which is the way I do it, and put rubber bands, which are now breaking. You can see they're not really functional anymore, and that's fine, because I don't need them to be. Okay. And I put them on the top so they wouldn't dry out, the same way I actually store my cuttings, which is in that video also. I stuck them in some potting soil, which I go over in that video, and left them alone. Let nature do its job. And you can see that they've done very well. Now, here's one. This one is making this leaf here is coming from there. So it's sprouting from down below. This one's fine. These are great. And this one here, there's a leaf under there, as you can see it. This one, the third one. And these 3, they're all doing very, very well. And you can see that. And back here, back under there, they're all doing very, very well, 100%. And it's only been 4 weeks or so. I'll probably post this in about a week. So I'm going to have, unfortunately, more Smith trees in these little pots than I'm going to be able to save, because I've tried in the past to break these apart and try to have more than one tree. I've succeeded a few times. It's difficult because the roots are just so tender and they're just so small, and it's not very hard to damage them severely. So the best thing to do really is to, after this gets established, the best thing I found to do is to plant the whole thing in the ground, if that's what you want to do, or put it in a pot, a larger pot, if that's what you want to do, and remove the others, which means you have to reach down and cut them out. I hate to say that. I don't like doing it. I probably should have just put one one cutting to the pot, but you do this because if one fails or if 2 fails, you always have one that probably will propagate properly and be successful, and that will be the tree that you're going to end up growing afterwards. So you can see that these are doing better than those, but they're doing fine. What accounts for that? Who knows? But the bottom line is, you just facilitate nature, let nature do its job, and nature is wiser than we are, and usually you'll be very happy with the results. I have no trouble propagating figs. I'm sure many of you out there do not either, but for those of you that haven't had the experience of propagating figs and want to propagate figs, grab some cuttings and do it. Now you can still scrape down. There's no reason why you don't want to go down to the cambium. I mean, you can still scrape them the way some people do, and I do that too sometimes when I have time. And you can use the root hormone. There's nothing wrong with that, which I discussed in my other video. I'm just simply saying, it's in that video I also say it's not, I think it's in the title, not rocket science. It's not rocket science. It's just taking the basics, okay? The basics that nature allows us to participate in, all right? Just taking those basics and facilitating the conditions and making them conducive to allowing nature to do its job. Nature's a mysterious thing, and it's very wise, and we do better sometimes not to interfere. Often we do, unfortunately. So, are there better ways to do it? Yes. Or are there, well, I don't know about better, but there are other ways to do it successfully? Of course there are. And sometimes we fail and sometimes we succeed, but we don't have to make a real big deal out of it. Don't get all nervous. Don't get too much, don't suffer anxiety over it. It's really generally an easy task if you just do the essential things that are necessary to allow nature to do its job, and get out of the way sometimes. Get out of the way. Don't overwater. Don't underwater. Very, very important things. I haven't nourished these at all, and I'm not going to for a while. I'm just going to let them grow. I'll let the sunlight nourish them through photosynthesis. And as they grow larger and larger, and they will in the good weather now, I will eventually put them either in the ground. These are really earmarked for the ground in a place that I have already established for them, because I love Smith, which I mentioned also in the previous video, and I intend to grow more of them in ground in the several locations that I have to grow them in. It's just including pots, which I have several in pots, large trees, and you can see in my previous videos, I love Smith, and I'm able to grow it and successfully, and I'm able to pick quite a few of them and have successful harvests. And I'm very, very, very satisfied that it is one of the figs that is well adapted to the Northeast and to humid conditions. And I'm finding that it's a little bit more winter hardy also than many think, but I'm not completely sure just how. But my next video will probably be on that subject, where I will be visiting another location in 7B, where I am experimenting with Smith, and I want to see what the conditions are. I want to see what the results are of planting it in the ground in the middle of the summer last year, and it was able to get well established, and so I'm hoping for the best, and I will make a report on it. I also have one growing on 7A, but I haven't been able to film it yet, and I will be filming it soon, and when I do, I'll be posting a video on that one as well, because I want to get down to the bottom of exactly just how winter hardy Smith is, because it's just one of the varieties that in my 7A zone and in the Northeast, and with the humidity that we have and the rain during the summertime and in the fall, it's just so well adapted and just so productive, and it's early enough that you can get a full harvest. I just really, really love Smith. I love a lot of varieties, which you will see and hear me speak about in my other videos. But I certainly put Smith at the top of the list, or near the top of the list, of some of my favorite figs that I've ever grown. Okay, so with that, thank you for visiting. Again, don't get nervous. Don't suffer any anxiety attacks. Figs are easy to propagate. Just give nature a chance to provide for you. and be a facilitator and allow nature to take its place, and do its job. It'll do a great job for you if you don't make mistakes and don't overwater or underwater, and certainly don't fertilize when they're this young and tender, because you'll burn the roots. Generally, I will let these go for a while, and then I'll start maybe dousing them with a little bit of liquid fertilizer, like say Miracle Grow or something like that, and I'll dissolve it, just maybe a teaspoon to a gallon, not a lot, and just give them a little bit of that when I water them. And once they get a little older and more established, I'll be able to give them fertilizer more directly. Okay, especially in the first year when you want to develop as many of these capillary roots that you possibly can. You want them to expand everywhere that you want to give it a good basic start, okay, fundamentally, and you want to feed those roots and control the growth and trim the trees a little, prune them, and try to scaffold them and shape them and give them the beginning of a start whereby they will one day be beautiful examples of fig trees and be branched the way that you prefer to have fig trees branch. And there are several ways that you can choose and prefer that too. All right, with that, again, thank you for your visit. Good day.